Hello and welcome. I'm Erin Cuthbert, footballer for Chelsea and the Scotland national team, and you're listening to the Blue Day podcast. Chelsea!
Welcome back, my friends, to the podcast that never ends. Yes, folks, this is the Blue Day podcast, and for Chelsea fans everywhere, every day is a Blue Day. I am your host, Keith Lawrence, and on today's show, me and my guest, who I will be introducing in a minute, will be dissecting everything that is going on at Chelsea Football Club, and none of it is right. But let me introduce you to my guest this week. He's a former Chelsea defender who has got blue blood in his veins, and he's a man who would certainly tell Moyes 2.0 where to go right now. It is none other than Steve Wicks. Steve, welcome back to the show. It's been a while since we've had a conversation, a dissection, so to speak, on Chelsea Football Club, but nice to have you back on board. And how have you been?
Yeah, I've been well, Keith. You know, like every other Chelsea fan, very frustrated. Don't know what's going on with my football club, but at the end of the day, as I said to you before, we've had years and years of success. We just got to get together and keep together and make sure, you know, we don't destroy everything that we've accomplished.
Do you think that could happen within one season? I mean, it could, but with the way things are going, could it be a case whereby we drop like a stone and just, I don't know, you know, listen, 87, 88 springs to mind. I know it sounds ridiculous, but the way things are going.
You can see something happening. You can see something. I think what we've got to do is bite the bullet this season. And I think next season, I think we will come back stronger, and I think we'll be a force. And we're certainly, the players we've got, when he sorts things out, we should be able to make that top four again next year.
In what league? Premier League or Championship, Steve?
Oh no, Premier League. We're not that bad.
Well, the form begs to differ. And if I go through some of the stats that I picked out, these are some of the best ones I've got. 1 home goal in 4 home matches.
Yeah.
3 wins in 16.
Yeah.
And it's even more bloody depressing as possible. And it's been sort of looked at in social media that Graham Potter, if we look at form and look at the win percentage, is one of the worst Chelsea managers of all time. To which quite a few people, and this led me on to you, quite a few people actually mentioned, well, Danny Blanchflower era and Sir Geoff Hurst's era was pretty worse. But I'll tell you what, Steve, let's first talk about the game on Saturday. I didn't go because I had a prior engagement. I was seeing a particular comedian at the O2 on Saturday night. Obviously, I watched the highlights on Match of the Day, and people were talking to me after the game. You actually called me, Steve, on Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, and I had 4 calls after you wanted to talk about the Chelsea game, which I thought was kind of funny. Yeah. And just wanted to get my reaction and talk it over. I watched the game, not just on Match of the Day, but I watched like the extended highlights on another feed, and it's embarrassing, very, very embarrassing. I was surprised with the lineup, like pretty much everybody was surprised. I was surprised with the lineup. I felt, you know, was there injuries to Silva? Was there injuries to James? It's turned out a little bit that Graham Potter, as I like to call him, Moyes 2.0, was advised by the medical staff not to play those players, not to start Mudryk, not to start Sterling, not to start Havertz because of potential injuries that could come up with their performances. So, what's a man to do? Has he done his job effectively so far? You'd have to say no. At the start of his tenure, 9-10 games unbeaten, looked quite well. But you're always going to get a bounce back when a manager leaves mid-season. The new guy that comes in, he's always going to be kind of positive because the players, it's fresh, it's new things. This is a new guy. Oh, let's play for him. And we did quite well against AC Milan. We qualified out the group stage of the Champions League with Graham Potter in charge. But since, I would say, the defeat to Brighton, and then we dropped 2 points against Man United at the death, excuse me, the whole club, not just Moyes 2.0, but the whole club has just fallen flat on their face.
We're not used to it, are we? But can't just disintegrate as a club. We've got to stay together, and we've got to try and get it right. And we've tried to, motivate our players. It's no good booing from the first whistle to the last whistle, because that does no one any good. And this is a real test of a Chelsea fan as well. Is that, it's almost like a marriage. You've got to deal with the downtimes. You've got to deal with it, and you've got to be bold and keep backing the team. And we must never forget that. But if you go out to a crowd at Stamford Bridge, and I've played at Stamford Bridge and gone out to a very, very hostile atmosphere in terms of what, a few of the fans were getting really frustrated. And what that does, it gets to the players. So we've got to stay as one and be together and, come through this bad stage together. I know it's easy to say. So one bad year, we shouldn't be that frustrated.
Is there an issue, Steve, when you talk about bad years and you talk about the boos, especially from
your own
first whistle to last? Obviously, there was a lot of boos at full time at Southampton, and again, you probably weigh up, potentially rightfully so, because we shouldn't be losing to the bottom club. If you look at the league table, Southampton have done the double over us, and they are bottom. They've only won 5 league games all season. 2 of them is against us. Yeah. Leeds have won 4 games all season. 1 of them is against us.
Yeah.
That alone should tell you the state that we are in at the moment. I did feel that the squad on Saturday was imbalanced. And there was a video going out on Facebook and on social media, other social media channels, of before the pre-match warm-up of Azpilicueta at the front, as always, and he's trying to rile the players up to get them motivated and get them mentally ready for the game.
Yeah.
The video shows, Steve, 9 out of 10 of them, the video showed the majority of them, Steve, just walking up, looking like having a leisurely stroll, like this was a kickabout. There was no intent to sort of get on the pitch quick. There was didn't look any motivation, no inspiration from them whatsoever. You've seen it, Steve, with different managers, with different players. It's all about what you do in the warm-up, and it's all about the first 10, 15 minutes. If the players aren't geared up for it before the game, what chance have they got to get a result?
I just feel that, a lot of those players have got to realise that, things aren't going well, and the only way that you get out of this is to work harder, train harder, and play harder. And without that, if you think you're going to go on a stroll and you're a superstar that you think things are going to turn in a weekend, it ain't going to happen. And they need to understand that they're in the most competitive league in the world. And if their attitudes aren't right, and they're not prepared to roll their sleeves up and have a go, yeah, we could be in trouble, but not relegation trouble. Just where we're fallen from grace and fallen from the heights that we've got to.
Well, the only
way out of this is hard work. And it's not coming through. It's not coming through that the players are working hard enough, put it that way. And it's not all a manager's problem. The players have got to look at themselves. They've got to look at themselves. When they're brushing their teeth and having a shave, they've got to look at themselves and say, am I giving 100%? And there's not many of those that can actually say that at the moment.
I've paused because I'm trying to think of some positives to say out of that.
But having said that, Keith, I can't remember how far we've gone back on our podcast. And we've said the most important position that we need a replacement is as a number 9. A number 9. I saw a photo of Peter Osgood today, and I thought to myself, God, what would I do to have Peter Osgood as my number 9 today? I just think we've how many wide players do you need to sign? How many? We've got more wingers than the RAF. Wide players. I just think it's...
And not many good ones either.
No. And I keep saying the most ridiculous signings have been made for the most ridiculous money. And 9-year contracts and 8-year contracts. Say Modric, after a season, can't do it. Can't cope in the Premier League. We've still got him for 8 years. Paying ridiculous wages. Everyone's having a go. I looked on social media. Everyone's having a go at Mason Mount. If I was Mason Mount, and I'd got Player of the Year and played out how I played for Chelsea for 2 years, and some Ukrainian comes in playing the Ukrainian league for 34 games or whatever it is, and gets treble my money, I'd react just like Mason Mount. I'd be absolutely fuming and saying, hold it a minute, I want you to put my wages up to his wages or whatever, or what I deserve. And people are having a go at him, but I can understand how Mason's feeling. I can understand. And, it's like someone, if you, in a normal job, you're doing your job, you're doing it well, someone comes in to do your job but gets paid twice the money, how are you going to feel? Everyone's going to react and be upset about it. And this is where I think the Chelsea hierarchy have no idea how football works. No idea. It's very, very different to America. You can't look at the people that have been solid for you for 2 or 3 years and treat them and also bring these people in that haven't proved themselves in the Premier League and pay them 3 times the amount of money. You can't. And it's a recipe for disaster.
I'm just going through some of the stats here, and when I look at the team that he played on Saturday, he played Mason Mount wide, which I still don't fathom why Mount is not a winger. And I get that there's a lot of issues with Mason at the moment. I get some of the people's frustrations with Mason because Mason, he has had a piss poor season. But you show me a Chelsea player with his name not called Thiago who has had a good season. And because you're going to struggle to find them players. You know, the Mason's contract is slowly winding down. There's no talk of a new one. There are certain rumours going around that I've heard that the club, are thinking of giving him a contract at the end of the season. But will Mount sign it? Oh, Christ, I mean, it depends what is happening. It depends on who's still there, and I think it depends on what money Chelsea are willing to give him. If I'm honest, I would give him the same as what we've probably given Reece James, because Reece James has recently signed a new deal.
Down behind and pay Reece James what he's got. They've been together all the way through.
Yeah.
And there's a parity between their performances where they've been bloody good, the two of them. How can you leave Mason out and not pay him what you're paying Reece James? What does Mason feel in his mind? They don't want me. They don't think much of me. So who can blame him when he's going to, I don't know, sign for Liverpool next year? And he's going to come back to Chelsea reject and he's going to get grief like I had, right? When you come back to Chelsea and you're going to get a bit of grief. But who can blame him, seriously? He's played for England more times than Reece James. He's been bloody good for Chelsea and he's been a shining light in terms of everything. And the two of them are, to me, are Belisha beacons. Not some winger from Ukraine or some guy from Holland. These two boys are what Chelsea is all about. And Mason Mount and Reece James epitomise Chelsea. And that's what I get upset with. Our identity as a football club, where you always brought your own boys through, there was a real sort of, and we had this affinity with our young players. Actually, the best player that is, and let's be fair about it, a very good professional in that time. All right, he's had a bad year this year, but he's been a great professional. He's done his job. You never hear anything that Mason's done wrong. He is a great professional. And those are the type of players you want in your club. And Chelsea have done nothing under this new regime to make him feel wanted. That's the problem. That's the problem. And until the chairman stops wanting to flash his checkbook for every Tom, Dick and Harry in Europe and look after them on a 9-year contract, on an 8-year contract, and you're leaving one of your homegrown players that have been a real Belisha beacon over the last 3 years, forget this year, the last 3 years. If I was Mason Mount, excuse my French, because I don't often swear, I'd be a little bit pissed off.
Would you be surprised if Mount left in the summer?
No, not at all. No. And I'll tell you, I think Mason Mount will go to Liverpool. He will be part of their rebuilding structure where they're going to bring in players and bring in younger players and rebuild their club. And it wouldn't surprise me if he went there. Or he'd go to Manchester City. Because Mason Mount is a bloody good footballer. And has a lot more. And I actually think if he went with Pep or he went with Jurgen Klopp, I think he would maximise his potential and become a very, very good player. Under this, what has happened and how he's been treated, I don't think will ever heal at Chelsea. I don't. So I think if they splashed a load of money, I think this would hurt him an awful lot. And I don't think it will heal. I don't think he feels wanted. And I think that's the problem that we have at Chelsea at the moment. Everything is these new players that are coming in that have done absolutely nothing in the Premier League. And they're all coming in and they're all making huge amounts of money and they've done nothing. And actually, it's proving with results, they're still doing nothing.
Well, let me counteract that because I get your point. I do feel that there is a little bit of issue with what you said about all of the in terms of the signings. I believe there is a player in Benoit Badiashile, the centre back. Yes, on Saturday he had a poor game. it was the first game he played without Thiago Silva. For me, Christ, that's not a coincidence. He played with Koulibaly. For me, there is a player there. I have no issue with the fact that we've spent 38 million because he's got potential. We could, again, have somebody that could be, in terms of a Rudiger, at that level. João Felix, I'm more annoyed with my club, the fact that we've agreed to spend £11 million on a loan fee, but not spend 80 to 90 million pounds to try and get him permanently. Atletico would love to have the money because it's Spain and there's not a lot of money in Spanish football unless you're Barcelona or Real Madrid. And I think Felix would have been a star player for us to get him on a permanent. Fofana, the striker, not the centre-back, I think there is a player there, but he ain't going to get a chance in terms of a consistent run in the side. He had a good chance against Fulham when I was there the other week. He should have scored, but didn't. He started against Southampton, but was taken off after 45 minutes. Mudryk is an interesting one. I like him.
Can I ask you a question?
I think, yeah, go on, Steve.
Why do you like him?
Because I think he's unique in terms of not a lot of people know much about him, and there's got to be a player there in terms of his age, his potential. I'm not saying he's going to be the next Robin. I'm not going to say he's going to be the next Ronaldinho. Far from it. But I think there is a player there. He's got pace. I think that it's a sort of player whereby at Shakhtar it was a case of give him the ball, let him do what he wants. He ain't gonna. He can't do that here. We've got the league for it, and we could have the players for it, but we haven't got a coach to give him that opportunity. For me, I'm not saying that every time he's played he's done well, because he hasn't, but there's something about him in terms of his ability and in terms of what I think he can bring to the table. We've spent a hell of a lot of money, and I would not have spent anywhere near 88 million euros on him. But I think he'll come good. When Hazard and Oscar first came in, not a lot of people thought that they would turn out to be star players. Fan-wise, anyway. I know people within the club had high hopes for him, and they were right. Give him some time. When Lampard came to Chelsea, a lot of people didn't think he would become the player. Drogba, when Drogba came in, people didn't think Drogba would become the player he was. I think give Mudryk at least another 6 months, and then we'll see. It's very, very difficult to analyse and critique and criticise somebody. You know, he's only 22, 23. He's coming to a new league. And he's basically like Moyes 2.0. At the moment, he's out of his depth. The difference with Mudryk and Moyes 2.0 is Mudryk will definitely be there longer than our current manager. And
he will be. He's got a 9-year contract.
Well, so has Moyes 2.0. Let's not forget that. He has signed a 5-year deal. He's on near enough 10 to 12 million pounds a season.
Yeah. I just.
We sign Enzo Fernandez for 120.
Yeah.
And I know, people are expecting miracles from him. He has done okay. I wouldn't say he has, ripped trees apart and, taken the whole world on. There is a player there. You can evidently see that.
It's the amount of money.
Yeah, I know. I'm not disputing that. I am not disputing that.
With all due respect, we're looking at these major signings for £86 million, £125 million, and we're looking. There's a player there. What they should do is exude their class, and you look at it and say, what a player he is. When you're paying that sort of money, that's what you've got to look at and say, what a player. What a superb player he's going to be. What we're doing is we're saying, there's a player in there somewhere. There's a player in there somewhere. Oh, Modric.
But this is the model that we are in now, Steve.
£86 million. We've paid on a little dibby-dabby winger, as I see it, with no end product. And I'm looking at it thinking, what the hell is going on? Honestly, what the hell is going on? And I think what we're doing, we're looking at all these signings and trying to find something that's good about them. And when we spent the money we spent, you should look at them when they put that Chelsea shirt on and come out and you say, what a player he is. What a good player he is. We're not. We're saying there's a player in there somewhere. And that's what I find.
Well, again, I'm not Mudrik's number one fan. Far from it. I'm not starting a fan club. I'm not going to start his unofficial Facebook page. He came on against Liverpool and he looked lively, and everyone's like, "Oh, bloody hell!"
The best spell of football he's played.
Yes, I'll agree to that. Fulham. He came off after half time, and then Moyes 2.0 gave one of his many excuses to say, oh, he had the flu. Well, why bloody start him in the first place? And then since then, against West Ham away when I was there, he hardly got the ball because we've got a left back who is his confidence is shot to bits, and he's not the player that he was once labelled to be. And we have had our pants pulled down hugely with that £62 million that we spent on him.
Are you talking about Cinderella?
In the summer. I'm talking about Cinderella. Mudryk hardly got the bloody ball against West Ham, and he struggled against West Ham because of the space and because of the fact that he never got the ball from his left-sided compatriot.
Hold it a minute. So an £86 million player can't go and find the ball and do something. So an £86 million player is reliant totally.
He was marked out the game quite effectively by West Ham, which I'll give them credit for.
Who was the left back that day? Who was the right back or left back that day?
The left back for Chelsea?
No, for West Ham.
Oh, crap. Now you've got to make me go back now. Right, hang on a minute. I believe it might have been Soufal.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, you're not talking a world-class player, right? So therefore, you've got an 86
No,
million...
but again, looking at from a team perspective, they marked him out the game. But it wasn't just him that was marked out the game. There's quite a few of the players that was marked out the game.
Do you know what I think, Keith? I think we're making excuses. I think.
I am not Moyes 2.0. I'm not coming up with shite excuses.
Our recruitment. I'm looking at these players and I'm thinking, on a European level, I've not heard of half these players. I'm looking at them thinking, who the hell is that? And we paid 38 million quid. Who the hell is that? 46 million quid. Who the hell is that? 86 million quid. And I'm telling you, Modric was signed because Arsenal wanted him. And they thought, cool, he's got to be a good player if Arsenal want him. And I'll tell you what, little dibby-dabby player with no end product.
But we don't know that yet because he hasn't played enough games. I'm disputing this all day long.
Right, okay, you dispute me. And I'll tell you what, I'll have a little bet with you privately on the outcome of this whole thing. Because I'll tell you something now. What is used so freely in football talk is world class. He's world class.
I'll agree to that. Yeah, no, I'll agree to that.
I was brought up in an era of Maradona, Zidane, Pele, Bobby Moore, what I call absolute world class players. And I'm telling you now, we had a winger at QPR called Wayne Faraday, who was he qualified for the Olympics because he was the fastest thing on two legs. And he was a good player. And his end product is better than Modric. And he was, but Wayne played for West Brom. I think he went from QPR to West Brom. But what I'm saying is, I look at these players and I can look at them and say, I can put them with players and I can say, actually, there's not a lot between him, but he'd cost 750 grand, but he cost 86 million quid. And that's where I look at the naivety of Chelsea Football Club, look at the naivety of the owner, and say, you have had your patents pulled down. Because a lot of these players aren't worth the money that we've paid. And I've always said to you over and over again on these podcasts that who's ever advising the owner of the club needs shooting. Needs shooting. Because I'll tell you what, I've seen a lot of good players that, and I look at players and I think, yeah, they could be good players. Yeah, they could. But when I look at the prices we paid for them, I think, bloody hell, I hope they are good players. And we've had our pants pulled down. We've had no plan. We've had no... Honestly, where we are at the moment is because we haven't got anyone that can score goals. You have always said, I've always said it, we've got no focal point to our club, to our team. We've got no focal point. We are playing, we are a shotgun, but we've got blanks in our barrels. And that's the truth. And how anyone at Chelsea Football... Do you know what? I was looking at the Liverpool centre forward that they bought.
Nunes.
And what I do to have Nunes at Chelsea.
No, I wouldn't touch him. I think he's a liability, that boy.
Keith. He's aggressive. He gets hold of the ball. He attacks. All right, he's not scoring at the moment. But what he is he's an aggressive centre forward. And what Chelsea need is an aggressive centre forward to actually hammer a few defenders and make a bit of space for people and tell people that they're going to have a game and a half. Because at the moment, we've got cotton wool forwards.
We've got cotton wool players, let alone forwards.
We've got cotton wool forwards. We need that aggressive, but as I said, we don't necessarily need that. I looked at a picture of Peter Osgood today and I thought to myself, oh my God, what I do to have Ozzy as our number 9 at the moment, because that was a centre forward. And then I thought about it. I thought, you know what? There's a big similarity between him and Harry Kane in terms of how Ozzy brought people into play. Very similar. And, Ozzy would go deep and all of a sudden he hit this ball or play someone in and you say, oh my God, how did he do that? We haven't got that. And until we get that, we're cutting meat with a blunt knife. That's what we're doing.
Here's a question. Is the main issue here with Chelsea, because it can't be everything, there's got to be one or the other, is the main issue with Chelsea, in your eyes, Steve, the coach, or is it in terms of the club? Who's mostly to blame for where we are at the moment? Because at the moment we're up the creek without a paddle.
Yeah.
In my opinion, we have shopped at Harrods to buy the best food ingredients we can possibly buy, and we've got somebody who's worked at McDonald's to cook them.
No. What I think is we've shopped at a fraudulent company that spells totally fraudulent, and what we've done, we've been stupid enough to buy a load of them. And what I think is the manager, you need an elite manager, and I said to you, my choice would have been Pochettino, to come into Chelsea Football Club, and everyone at that football club respects him for what he's done. That's
Well,
not
from
happened.
what I've heard, and I think it has actually come out on social media today, but I did hear it before the fact, Pochettino actually has turned the job down. There was initial talks. I'm assuming it's after the Southampton game, but there was initial talks, and he's turned the job down. Now,
Well,
read to that what you will. We're going to talk about some managers that could
I'll
be
tell you
out
why.
there.
I'll tell you why. Because
Go on.
he's going back to Tottenham, and that's his club. And we had the chance to employ him when at the start of all this, and he probably feels that, you know, all I'm saying to you, and I'll say to the listeners of our podcast, is if you go to Brighton, how many times when you watch Brighton on Match of the Day did they say Brighton are playing all the football, they're in control, but they never created chances. And they used to lose a game when they had dominant possession, and they were probably the best side, but they used to lose game after game after game because they couldn't score the goals. And everyone said, you know, the problem with Brighton, they can't score goals. We are now into his tenure at Chelsea, and what are people saying? We can't score goals. Why is that? Is it a player's fault? Is it the boardroom's fault that they haven't brought a number 9 to score goals? Or is it a coach's fault where he doesn't get the ball in the box early enough? That's what you got to ask yourself. And you got to say, right, there are reasons for this, but Brighton had the same problem. Dominated games with possession, never scored goals. And you got to ask yourself, you know, is it? But the mere fact that we haven't signed a centre forward, to me, is you know, if Graham Potter had a player up front that scored 25 goals a season, it makes his job a lot easier.
I have to laugh because otherwise I'll end up crying with the way the situation is at the moment. Listen, I know that there's a lot of people out there that are Potter out. I'm one of them, but I'm not going to shout it on Twitter. I'm not going to raise the roof on Facebook and say that this guy needs to go. He's a cancer. He's this, he's that. At the end of the day, he has signed a 5-year deal. Todd and his band of misfits are not going to sack him anytime soon, unless Chelsea do go down, which I don't even think the Americans are going to go. I don't even think the Americans are going to go, well, you know, he can still do a job.
Have you explained to the Americans that there's relegation in this league? I bet they don't even know that.
Wouldn't surprise me, Steve. Really wouldn't surprise me. The fact that we are 11 points from the bottom 3, that's quite concerning. But you know, listen, there's absolutely no way we are going to go down. But
go down ever? Will we ever go down? No way.
Well, last year I would say never ever, but this season I'm not so sure.
No way.
I'm not so sure. But if we can look on the positives, and there is a little bit of positives, Kante's back at training. And we have missed him pretty much for 2 years. He's close to actually signing a new deal, which I'm surprised about. I thought he might be one of the players to leave. For me, he and Enzo Fernandez would be a very, very great partnership to have in that middle of midfield. And it does beg the question if once he comes back and Enzo has a run in the side where he's with Kante, players like Ruben, Matteo Kovacic, even Gallagher to an extent. I mean, even, you know, listen, we've got that lad from Juventus, Dennis Zakaria, who I think is a very good player. I would sign him permanently. He can't get in the bloody team. There's a lot of people, and I know, Steve, you listen to Talk Sport. I try not to because they've got a lot of Muppets on that show, on that station. But they did make a good point to where we've got all these players, and does Moyes 2.0 know his best side? You can clearly see he doesn't. He doesn't know his best side. And with games coming thick and fast, we've got Tottenham at their place Sunday. That used to be called 3 Point Lane to us, not anymore. We've then got Leeds the week after, and then we've got Dortmund. Yeah. I hate to be the bearer of negativity. We aren't going to get anything out of them three. I cannot see it.
Keith, we beat Leeds. We beat Leeds, and I think we can beat Dortmund. But what I think we've got to do is we've got to change our style of play. We've got to look forward every time, not sideways, not backwards, forward. And let's get our players playing and get our players in. We can beat Dortmund. We can beat them. And we can beat Leeds. The Tottenham game's going to be hard, but we always rise to the occasion when we play Tottenham. I've got faith in Chelsea to a certain degree, and I certainly wouldn't worry about Leeds when you got Patrick Bamford up front. If honestly, with his comments in some of his after match chats, I wouldn't play him. And I think if you got him up front, fine, we'd do it. We will win it, and we'd be okay. And I think we could beat Dortmund. Chelsea are not. Listen, we're not going through a good spell at the moment, but there are little signs in the last couple of games where I can see. The first 25 minutes at West Ham, I thought we were absolutely superb.
Oh God, absolutely! We played some terrific football, and if Havertz knew the offside rule, if the linesmans knew the offside rule, we would have been 3-0 up within 20 minutes.
I thought we were absolutely superb.
Yes.
Now, if we take that and build that up to 45 minutes, 65 minutes, 75 minutes, we'll win more games than we lose. But the only sad thing is we haven't got that end product that's going to get us the goals we deserve. We need that. I keep saying I'm sick of it, but we need that 20, 25 goal a season player, and we haven't got it. We've got Havertz, and everyone slaughters Havertz. I feel quite sorry for him because I don't think Havertz wants to play centre forward, but he's trying his best, trying to do so. But he's a 10. He's a 10. And we haven't got the players around him like Man City when you play with no number 9 that can play that beautiful way they play, where they score goals. Everyone scores goals. We haven't got that. We haven't got many goal scorers in our team. We haven't. And we haven't got goal scorers in our team. We need to get midfield players getting 10, 12 goals a season. We haven't got any of those.
I know you have your thoughts on Aubameyang, and I've got my thoughts on Pierre as well. There's a lot of people on Talkshite and on social media saying he's a striker. Chelsea need a striker. He's a striker. He's got to play. He's got to do this. He's got to do this. He's got to do this. He needs to play. Let me tell you something, folks. For those of you that are listening to this who are an Aubameyang fan, don't get me wrong, and this isn't a dig at you, but Aubameyang isn't the answer. Because if he was the answer, what's the question? Aubameyang is not the one who's going to be leading the line, scoring 10, 15 goals for Chelsea between now and the end of the season. He ain't going to do it. He doesn't want to be there. One of his closest confidants in Tuchel left 2 days after he signed. He doesn't want to play for Potter. I don't even think he knows who Moyes 2.0 is. I genuinely believe Aubameyang believes that our manager is a caretaker or a substitute PE teacher.
No, Keith, can I just say something to you?
Be my guest.
A couple of things, right? And I'm trying to educate you here. And I think we have to have respect, certainly for David Moyes. We have to have respect what he achieved at Everton and what he achieved with West Ham over the two seasons when he got them into Europe and they lost the European Cup final. I think we got to give them a little bit of respect. I think, Graham Potter, I didn't think he had the CV to become Chelsea manager. I think when you become manager of Chelsea, you've got to be one of those elite managers, and that was my gripe about him. But I think what we've got to do is be a little bit, respectful to to certain people, and I think, David Moyes, you can't be a manager for I don't know how many years. He must be 15 years approaching, and not have something that should be respected. And I think that Graham Potter, where he came from and where he got to at Brighton, you got to respect and admire what he achieved. But I just think he's taken that step too far. Or is he, and you've got to ask yourself this question because it's very important, did he take the job with the owners saying, we provide the players, you coach them? This is what we got to find out with Chelsea, because it wouldn't surprise me if he got that job and no one would turn down the money he's been offered. No one would turn that down. But has the owner of the club, who wants to be involved in everything, turned around to him and said, I'll get you the players, all I want you to do is coach them. So effectively, Graham Potter has got no say in the players he gets.
Well, we've seen that with certain press conferences when they've mentioned certain players, and he's like, "Yeah, he's a good player," but he hasn't not said, "Oh, he's one of the players that I wanted to bring in."
And I look at it, and I think we there's a lot of people out for Graham Potter's blood, and with the Moyes thing.
Well, a lot of it is farcical in terms of getting Potter out and saying that this guy's an absolute terror and whatnot. My sort of issue with Potter, and hence why I say Moyes 2.0, is the fact that Moyes went from Everton to United, and I'm not disputing the fact that he should not have accepted the job because, Christ, it's Man United. But it's very, very similar. He's gone to the big club and he has stuck with the same values, same principles as what he had in his previous club, and he's trying to teach elite players something that really is a downgrade on those players. Graham's gone in, a fish out of water, completely changed dynamic of Brighton to Chelsea. And again, and I can see why Mason hasn't performed. I can see why Aubameyang has down tools and put his pacifier back in. They're looking at this guy thinking, who on earth are you? And how are you going to make me successful? If you're not going to make me successful, why should I listen? Now, that's probably why Aubameyang's not in the team. That's probably why Hakim Ziyech had a great World Cup. Nowhere to be seen. Pulisic injured again. That's his forte. But you look at the difference in what Graham has, any differences in what Graham has done. Has he improved players? No. Has he put the team together? Has he sort of moulded a side that can be tighter at the back, play through good little channels in midfield, have nice little influences in midfield, and be a threat up top? No.
But Keith, he hasn't got the artillery to do that. The club haven't given him a number 9. And what I'm saying to you, you're saying that. I'll do the objective way, right? He's gone from Brighton to Chelsea, and he's got a lot of players that think they're better than what they are. Aubameyang being one of them. Who, let's be fair about it. If I had a name for Aubameyang, I'd call him Cadbury, because if he was made of chocolate, he'd eat himself. And I would say, has he gone in there and say, listen, I want you to work hard in training. I want you to prove to me you want to play for Chelsea. I want to see you every day of the week working your socks off. Has he said that to Aubameyang? And is that what has made Aubameyang say, I don't need that from that sort of man? He's done nothing. He's not won anything.
But
I think we're looking at Graham Potter and we're saying, and I was amazed that he was made. Hello?
I'm still here, Steve.
So is it, we're surmising when we say that, is it the big superstars that are causing the problem? Is Graham Potter going in there with treating Chelsea players like Brighton players and saying, you know what, you got to work for your place. I want to see hard-working training. I want to see these boys, a lot of them, are so think they're God's gift that they might not be giving it all in training. They might be. Aubameyang would be. If I had to back Graham Potter's ethics with being a coach and Aubameyang's ethics of being a footballer, I think I'd back Potter in that. The way he behaved in that documentary. I said to you, the one thing I've been consistent about, I said to him, if Aubameyang was available, I wouldn't sign him for anything.
I'd agree with that. Yeah. I'd agree with that.
And honestly, the way he behaved in that Arsenal, I wouldn't touch him. And I said that. And if I was a coach coaching and I had that diva as a player, I'd fall out with him very quickly. Very quickly. And I think Potter has. Because Potter has those values that has come from a club where everyone works their socks off to get in the first team. So you've got to look at it two ways. You've got to be open-minded and look at it two ways. And you've got to say to yourself, well, there's two ways to everything. And I think Graham Potter, has gone into a situation where he's never had it before. And he's got to work out what he's got to do. And I think, it's going to be hard for him. And he's going to get grief because everyone will look at him and say he's the problem. But he might not be.
Do you suspect he will be there at the start of next season?
Unless someone becomes available that is mind-blowing, yes.
Interesting. My final question, because I know you said that your battery's running. Your battery's running low. My body battery's running on low. In terms of Chelsea, there's no way we're going to get Champions League football unless we win.
I wouldn't rule that out.
Okay, so you would still say we've got a chance to get into the top four, or at least Champions League football. Okay.
Yeah, I think we've got to look at top six and we've got to say, right, we're going to go for that. And anything else that... I don't think Newcastle... I think Newcastle are the vulnerable ones. You've got Tottenham that can't string two results together. So those two people, you're thinking, dearie me, yeah. And all we need, and I was so upset on Saturday because I thought that was the launch pad for our assault on that top four, top six. I think it's so important that we stay in Europe. But listen, let's see what happens. It's going to be nothing is. If we went on a run now that we could go on and we start winning games and confidence builds, who knows? Who knows?
Well, it all starts on Sunday. And do you think Chelsea will get something out of the game?
I think they can. And I think it's going to be one of those games where, when you least expect it, it happens. And I think Chelsea, everyone's saying, oh, lowest of the low, all of a sudden Chelsea can go rock up and win 2-0. And everyone goes, oh, God, that's good. And it might be the launch pad. maybe Graham Potter needs that little launch pad to get us going. But you know something about Graham Potter? Everyone was criticising his demeanour. He doesn't get animated enough. He doesn't show his passion. You know what? I quite like that. I like a manager in control.
No, I have no issue with that either, actually.
I think that was
no.
And I think I like the way he is. When he talks, I think he talks what he considers the truth. I don't think there's any side to him. And you know what? There's a lot of me that wants him to succeed and get over that hump. There's a lot of it. There's a lot about him that I like. And if he turned this round and he got success and qualified for the, I don't know, Champions League or whatever, I'd be delighted for him because there's something about him I like. Maybe it's because he's English. You know, maybe it's because he's quite honest. He doesn't talk the shit that some of the other managers talk. There's something about him I like.
Well,
enough for the job that remains to be seen.
Yes. No, I agree. Listen, at the moment, with the club, with the manager, it's all gone to pot. And I'd say this show's actually gone to pot for today. But we will be back very, very soon with another episode. So don't you worry about that. We will be back to review the Tottenham game. Hopefully, we'll also be potentially going to review the Leeds and Dortmund game. And hopefully, if Steve's prediction's correct, we can overcome the might that is Borussia Dortmund with the same manager in place. I can't see him being changed anytime soon. But we hope that you have enjoyed this show today. We hope that you come back very, very soon. We are on Twitter. Find us at The Blue Day Pod. We are on Instagram at The Blue Day Podcast. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Blue Day Podcast. Like and subscribe us on Apple Podcasts as well. Leave a 5-star review if you've liked the show. My thanks to Steve Wicks again for this week's dissection on Chelsea Football Club. And we hope you stay safe, folks, and carefree.